Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah, and you're watching the Doc Force. And tonight we got a very special show for you. I got a special guest. Michael Schratt's going to be joining us in just a moment, but wanted to jump on over to the comment sections for those that jump in, so I can do a roll call in just a little bit. But yeah, I've got some cool news. Got some really cool news that was just announced about an hour ago. It's like a little Johnny Carson here. There's some wild and wacky stuff. No, this is actually very, very cool. For those that know, I have done some music videos. I direct, I produce, and I got one of my dear friends who I've known for years, Sir Earl Toon. He's from Kool and the Gang. And we did a Christmas music video, his very first Christmas song for a Christmas movie soundtrack for #Blessed, which was filmed here in the White Mountains last year. And we shot the music video up here, and it has been getting nominated for awards and film festivals after film festivals. And we got another one that it's Sir Earl Toon Jr. and myself, Donna Buckowitz, Delia Faulkner, and Martina Webster, who's they produced and wrote and directed the movie. And it's this is all I want, the Rotterdam Independent Film Festival. So I just found out about it. I haven't clicked on it. I don't even know where Rotterdam is, but we have been getting nominated at film festivals in all parts of the world. So that is really cool. Anyway, exciting, fun, and new. All right. So we got Paul here. Now, Paul Marsh has done some really cool stuff for me, him and his wife. And I'm going to be putting together, as some of you know, I got the blue screen of death the other day, and I had to take my baby in to get looked at, and everything's corrupt. So got to start all over. But I'm going to put together a really cool show intro and outro, and he put this together. Let me show it to you real quick. Now, there's no music or anything to this. This is just the quick little part that's going to be a part of the intro. There we go. Boom! Look at that. Oh, let me hit play again. Check it out. Isn't that sick? So now I'm gonna have to get some really cool rocket music, but thanks to Paul, and he's got some other stuff, some really cool logo, or I guess the new mascot for the show. That will be, t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, all that fun stuff, stickers. And he actually gave me a cornucopia of flavors of ideas. So once I get the file with all the images and everything, which we might do tomorrow night, I'm going to show them to you guys, and I want you guys to help vote on them, and we'll pick. And it's not just one; we can pick multiples, but I want to get a pulse of what you guys think. So we got that going on. All right. So yes, thank you very much, Paul. There's Paul. He says hello. Alien Bump 72 is here. UFO bro better. Yes, we're gonna be talking UFOs possibly tonight. Greetings, 1028. Hello, Off-World Adam. Thank you for joining. Mr. B is here from Australia. Hello. Frapsap is here. Thank you very much. Terry's here. Hi, Terry. Always a pleasure. I mean, you guys are just dedicated. I love you guys. I truly love you guys. Let's see. Terry, is it gonna let me show it? There you go. Or should I call you Captain? What do you mean, Lord or Captain? Yes. Well, technically, yes. I am legally now Lord Doc Skinner. It is title, proclamation, all that stuff, legit. But I'm not gonna milk it. But you guys are like my core team, so I thought it's fun to share. All right, let's see. Hello, have fun, great new ideas. Oh yes, I got lots of ideas. Okay, now everybody's talking to everybody else, so we'll stop there, and we'll get the show. We got a big show, and then we got Patreon. If you want, I told our guests to hold the nitty gritty for the nitty gritty hour. Ooh, maybe we should call it that. Nah, I like mine. All right, so I'm going to actually do the introduction. Actually, we're going to show a quick trailer. For those that weren't with us last night, I showed the trailer for the new upcoming movie, Above Top Secret. And I'm going to share it with you right now. It's coming out April 5th. The Cousins brothers, you know, my buddies, they helped put this together. And with 1091 Productions as well. That's not 1028 Productions. That's me. 1091 is different. They're like doing big stuff right now. So follow them. So yeah, let's do a little screen share and let me show you this trailer. I'm going to actually bug out for a second so you can get full screen. Let me do that right now. So cool. Yes. John. Yes. Damn. Yes. Oh my goodness gracious. Ladies and gentlemen, he started off that trailer. Let me introduce to you the world, Michael Schratt. Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Let me
Hi, Doc. Good to be with you.
close all this out. So wow, that trailer just gets me pumped every time I see it. And you started off. I mean, you're getting out there, man. You are letting the world know what's up. And it's not like others that come out and say things and they're just like, believe me. You're like, here's the documents, here's the images,
Mhm.
here's the reports. You are truly about science, of proof. So for the world that isn't aware of who you are, could you
Mhm.
please just give a quick little background of who you are? And then I want you just to hit the ground running.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I'm a military aerospace historian. I'm a private pilot. I'm very interested in preserving an important part of our national history. And the way I've tried to do that, it's kind of a crusade here, a lifelong crusade. This will never end. This will be a lifelong crusade, is just visiting these archives, these research centers, private collections, collections all around the United States, where it actually involves boots on the ground research, going into the file cabinets, pulling out manila folders, requesting boxes, wearing the white gloves, going to the university archives, and actually getting these old, dusty, dark, forgotten, obscure cases, pulling them out, reviewing them, and then from the rough sketches and drawings, bringing those up to today's standards and maintaining an important part of our national history. That's the crusade. That's the goal. That's what I've been involved in.
Wow. And you have done that full heartedly. So what got you into this? I mean, you're a pilot.
Mhm.
Um, did this when you went down this rabbit hole, what was it that led you to it?
My dad kind of introduced me to aviation at a very young age, and that sparked my interest right there. And then being in Chicago, that gave me the opportunity to go to the EAA Oshkosh Air Show for about 30 years in a row. And then I guess the UFOs kind of just blended together, and that's what it's been ever since. So, again, it's just been a crusade. And I just want to bring these old cases to life. I'm curious, just like everybody else. And I just thought, wouldn't it be great if we could actually be at the scene as though we're actually there and illustrate the case in modern times with high res JPEGs, with full color renderings and video files where we're walking you through the hangar. We're working on our new video file right now where I'm going to take you through this hangar. I'm going to show you the craft. I'm going to show it to you on the flatbed trailer truck and really walk you through the case basically in real time. So that's the goal here.
Wow. It sounds like a whole series of episodes of case files
Yep.
that you could do.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean,
Yeah.
because you make reference that you want to bring back some of these stories.
Sure.
I've been noticing, especially in the recent years, how quickly society willfully forgets things and like history. We're trying to cancel a lot of it. How do you see this in your research that it may be a big story for a minute, but then it's forgotten until someone like you comes along, like a cold case file investigator, and digging it back up and going, no, remember this, see this, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
am I alone in that, or have you noticed that in your research?
I totally agree with you because, as you know, they've tried to rebrand UFOs as UAP, and they're trying to make anything prior to 2004 completely disappear. But some of the cases that we'll go over tonight here, we won't let them do that because these cases are documented. We have the drawings, we have the illustrations, we've got the 5-page report, we've got the flight path, we've got the technical report, and we've got multiple eyewitnesses. So those cases won't die, they won't go away, and they can't be pushed under the carpet. So we're going to keep on allowing those cases to come to the forefront.
Do you think the idea of them changing the terminology from UFO to UAP, aerial phenomenon, yes, UAP, that it was just another form of controlling the narrative?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Any way that they can start shifting people's opinions and using the algorithms and Google search, you just don't get the same results as you used to, and it's slowly deteriorating down to nothing. And all these old cases, if they're not brought out, they'll be completely forgot about, and
Yeah.
the people won't take advantage of the resources that are there that aren't connected to the internet. I'm talking about manila folders here that have been sitting here
Right.
for 50 years.
Real
That's
research.
what we're talking about. And that's not digital, that's old school. And that's what I love about it because it's not something that you can click and make it disappear. These are actual files.
Yeah. It's very Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew,
Sure. Yeah.
and I guess because we're from a generation that we appreciate that that wonderment of wanting to know more and putting the boots on the ground. And right now, yeah, it's all just speaking your phone and boom,
Exactly.
instant knowledge. Um, but yes, a lot of that, and a lot of it doesn't get transcribed into digital data. So the only way to really find these amazing cases and stories is doing it the hard way,
Mhm.
which you do, that's why I admire you so much. I
Well,
remember the first time we met, I came to interview you for Third Phase of Moon,
uh,
and you just had in this one room just rows and rows and rows and rows of binders just stacked I mean, and that's all stuff you've researched, and that just flabbergasted me. I was just like, this is the box molder right here, you know.
well, for
So
example, some of the cases that we've reviewed before, though, they date pre-Apollo times, and they're sitting in a manila folder, not to be seen by anyone for so long. Someone's got to go through this meticulously and pull these cases out and get these things illustrated. That we have to go from a rough sketch to a really nice 3D rendering, and then we can
Right.
do a 3D drawing from there. That's the kind of the process that needs to be done on a lot of these old cases, and there's an unlimited supply. You can just go to NICAP.org and start going through 1952, and by the time you get to the 480th case, I mean, it's a done deal right there's so much material there. In fact, there's more material in 1952 than there was in 1947. The flap of 47 is actually smaller than the flap of 52. So there's an unlimited supply. And, I'd like to see how they decide that they're going to let all those cases disappear. It's just not going to happen.
Wow. Well, thank you for all your efforts. I mean, maybe when I get some free time, I could help you snoop around and look at stuff, and do some research, because I dig that kind of stuff. Now, we got a good 45 minutes.
Yep.
You're on it. This is your
Okay.
This is your platform. You're in control. Take it away.
Okay. All right. So let's see if we can share screen here. That's the first thing. Share screen. Okay. Share. Let's see. Let's go here, and we'll go here. Share. All right. So now I'm going to go down here. I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Can you see this?
No.
You can't.
No.
Okay. It says that it's sharing my screen. So it seems like it should be working. Let's see here.
Oh, wait. Hold on. This is my first time having the guests do the screen, and I got to add you. There we go. There's your pictures.
Okay,
And,
so you're there now?
Yeah, and real quick before you get started,
Yep.
Alien Bub says, if we get to ask Michael questions, I'm wondering how he feels about the recent war and how he believes in this part of the bigger picture. Now, I just want to I'll post questions here and there, but let's hold that off, because he's going to give you a really good intro of stuff, and then we're in the Patreon. If you want, we can have it more intimate, and we can answer some questions. But I know he's got a lot to fill in the next 45. So there you go. Take it away.
Okay. All right. So why don't we begin here? I want to hit you with the 22-inch rims on this one, because we dug real deep and got some new information on it. Now let me set this up here. How I got this information? Well, as you know, Leonard Stringfield was the premier researcher in something that he coined. It wasn't my term. He's the one who coined this term, UFO crash retrievals. And he gave a lecture in Ohio back around 1978 timeframe. And this subject matter had been so new at the time. The term UFO crash retrieval wasn't even really known at such an early date in ufology. So when he gave his MUFON lecture, it was actually, he had a lukewarm response, is the best way I can describe it, because a lot of his witnesses, he would not allow their names to be known. And so that kind of damaged the credibility of some of the cases. That's the best way to describe it. But within the Leonard Stringfield files was this case. Back in 2013, I was given access to all 85 three-ring binders of Leonard Stringfield's dictation notes, and it was a kind of a thing where hours passed like minutes. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you before, but just a tremendous time compression type situation here. So in one of the three-ring binders, there was a sketch and I guess you could call it a two-page report on a very interesting encounter that a United States Marine had back in 1963. This is December 1963, and we're talking literally days after Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. So it's December 1963, and this Marine is called out of sleep, and he's told to board this cargo plane with no windows, and this is at Cherry Point, North Carolina. So I'm showing you the entrance gate to Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. This is Cherry Point, North Carolina. He gets on this plane, and he doesn't know what direction the plane is going. He doesn't know where the plane is going. But let me move to the next slide here, and you can see I've got a map, and we've got Havelock here, and north of Havelock is the Cherry Point Naval Station. That's kind of where we're beginning this journey here. So he gets on
Okay.
the plane. He flies approximately 3 hours from Cherry Point, North Carolina, to some location that we don't know. It's an undisclosed location. Could be a Marine station, could be a Navy station, could be an Air Force station. We just don't know. And when he lands, he gets off the plane. He is ushered to a building, and these large bypass doors open. And inside this building is and I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide here, is a 40-foot diameter hamburger shaped UFO that's 15 feet tall. It has a chrome polished, sort of a silvery, almost, you can't really call it brushed aluminum, but definitely had a polished aluminum exterior. There were approximately 9 elliptically shaped windows wrapped around the outer circumference of the craft itself.
Okay.
They were opaque in color. You could not see through them. They were kind of smoky. And if you look here at this top view, there was a entryway hatch on the bottom of this thing, but not the kind of entryway hatch that we know of. The seams on this hatch were so fully integrated you could not put a razor blade between the seams. That's how perfectly
Wow.
integrated the seams on this hatch were. Like otherworldly, we're talking about here. Now, if you look at the bottom view, I've got these red dots along the seams of this hatchway. And these red dots are the attempted points of entry. So we've got multiple teams of white lab coat technicians that are trying to gain access to this craft. That's kind of the setup here. Now let's move forward now. And I want to give you a view of what this thing looked like it was propped up on the scaffolding. He definitely mentioned that the craft was about 5 feet off the floor of this hangar facility. They built scaffolding around it. They had a catwalk where you could walk around the craft. You can see here the entry points on the left and right hand side. And then if you look at this detail view that I've created here, you can see that 1-inch lip between the outer exterior of the craft itself and then these smoky or opaque colored windows that you could not look through. Now,
like an eyelid almost.
Kind of like an eyelid. That's a very good way to look at it. That's a very good description. Now, I will mention that the entire craft in this hangar facility was extremely well lit. And his job was to guard this craft for a period of 2 weeks. So there was no shadows that you could see. The whole thing was extremely well lit from all different angles. And we'll go on to the next slide here to give you an illustration of what this thing actually looked like. So what they were trying to do, and he had an interaction with the Secretary of the Navy. You see the white circle painted on the floor directly below the craft. This Navy secretary was within about 2 seconds of being shot by this Marine guard because his orders were to shoot first and ask questions later. Anyone who tried to breach that circle run the risk of getting shot. That's how deeply classified this was. Okay, so they tried, according to the U.S. Marine, they tried 3 methods to get into the hull of this craft. The first one was diamond tip drill bits. That was unsuccessful. Second version was a high heat acetylene torch. That was unsuccessful. Third one is, according to the Marine, and we've got the documents and the interview notes from 1986 when he was actually interviewed. They brought in these 2 18-wheeler tractor-trailer trucks with these large electrical generating devices on them, and they had these cables going from the 18-wheeler tractor-trailers to inside this facility. And Doc, they were using a laser device to try to get inside the hull of this craft. But when they moved the laser away, it was warm to the touch, made no effect whatsoever. And this is all back in 1963. So here's my question. If Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, and this craft was already there by the time the Marine got there, so theoretically speaking, President John F. Kennedy could have been given a tour of this facility and saw this before he was assassinated.
Yeah, and that's probably
I want to know, what did Kennedy know? When did he know it? And who did he tell? That's what I want to know. So let me pull back all this scaffolding. Let me take these people out of this scene. Let me clear away the toolbox here and the laser device, and just
May I,
give you
may I,
kind of
may I ask a question about that
yeah,
door?
yeah,
So they used heat, they used lasers,
right.
and what else did they try to use?
Diamond tip drill bit.
No other techniques, because
Nope,
I
those are
have
the
it.
three that he
I
described.
I have an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
If frequencies,
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. I've also heard that these are very tangential rumors, but I've also heard that they dip these craft into large vats of liquid nitrogen and they freeze them and then shatter them. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I have
wow,
heard reports of that. So you can kind of see that the US government will stop at nothing to get into these craft. They'll try anything. So we've peeled
hmm,
back all the scaffolding here, and this kind of gives you a good look at what this craft looks like with these elliptically shaped windows. Now let's move forward here. This was done by Jose Sanchez, a friend of mine. And just to give you an idea of, here you see they're trying to breach the hull of the seam here.
yeah,
And it's not the craft that's breaking in debris, it's the drill bits that are breaking.
wow,
And they can't get inside. Now, the last day that he was there, he saw this thing being moved up onto an 18-wheeler tractor trailer. They were putting a tarp over the craft and they were putting chains over the tarp, and it was being moved to the next location. So to this day, I don't know, and I don't think he knows if they ever got inside. We just don't know. It's
I
been so
mean,
long.
you make when you mention that, put it on the flatbeds. I've seen videos of objects on flatbeds that are escorted by heavy military and local
Yep,
law enforcement,
that's right.
and they have that shape.
Yep,
Um,
that's true. They do, don't they?
and the fact that they do it in broad daylight and at night, but they give it such a huge grand gala parade.
Right.
People are going to see it. Now, is that supposed to be on purpose, or or I don't know what, but this shape I have seen on flatbed trucks covered in tarp. Not me physically myself, but I've seen
Mhm,
videos of people pulling over and capturing them, going through small towns and whatnot. Um, yeah, this is cool.
mhm.
Very
Okay, so
cool.
let's keep moving here. Now, I want to talk about the movie Hangar 18 that came out in 1980. I'm sure you may have seen this before.
Hmm.
But this is one of these B movies. It's one of these sci-fi movies. Personally, I don't recommend it. It has not aged well.
Oh,
But
really? I was about to write it down and watch it tonight, but I guess not.
well, don't expect any kind of a modern type movie here. This movie is dated, and I'm talking dated. But anyway, the point being here is that if you watch this movie, you'll notice a lot of the things that this Marine talked about are portrayed in this movie. And I've written down three examples here. Number one, in this movie, they have white lab coat technicians that are monitoring the craft, trying to reverse engineer the propulsion system. This is exactly what the Marine had talked about. Number two, there is scaffolding in this movie where this craft is held. That's exactly what the Marine had talked about. And number
Mhm.
three, if you watch this movie, there's a very strange, it's very brief. If you don't watch the whole thing, you might miss it. But there's a point in the movie where there's an incident with a laser that causes damage.
Wow.
And if we go back to this previous drawing here, this illustration, you can see they're shining the laser on the craft. Well, the Marine said that when they put the laser on the exterior skin, it reflected off and damaged a ceiling tile. So
Wow.
we've got three things integrated into this movie that actually happened in real life. So the question we need to be asking is Hollywood a belated designer leak for something that's
Oh,
real?
now I can answer that because
Yes,
I've done shows, whole episodes on this because I've been in the business almost 40 years.
right,
And yes, that is why I liked there's a dark side to the business, but I stayed in because I saw what was going on behind the scenes. I saw like Close Encounters. The
right.
ending of Close Encounters is talking about the astronauts that we sent to series. Oh shoot. It's in the movie. It's the guy. All the the men and the two women in the red jumpsuits getting on the bus.
Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes, Close Encounters,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
that was all supposedly based off of a real situation, um, and that's what it is. It's controlling the narrative by manipulating the masses with entertainment that desensitizes them, that soft disclosure, so
Correct.
that when they do make the announcement, people don't die of fear and heart attacks, and their paradigms are shattered. We've been conditioned over decades to grow accustomed and used to it, the idea, and a lot of people want that to happen. So yes, you are absolutely correct, 1,000%. Hollywood does do that.
Mhm. Yeah, they're trying to make it more palatable for everyone, is what it certainly seems like they're doing.
Yes, that is a good word.
Well, well,
Childhood's End or Childhood Lost, done by got it, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sir something. Ah, crap. Anyway, he did the movie Childhood Lost, and
okay.
they did it on the Sci-Fi Channel. And if you haven't seen that or read the book, I suggest it, because it makes you wonder if Hollywood has been doing this, slowly desensitizing us, getting used to us. Like Star Trek is always the one I fall back on, because look at all the technology in the original Star Trek, other than teleporters and stuff that we know of. Um, we have a lot of that stuff today. So yes, 100%. So Hangar 18, it may be a B movie. I'm going to check it out tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It'll be something to watch here. Okay, so we'll continue on here. Now, this is a brand new drawing that I commissioned Rudy Gardea to do for me. And just to get back to the Marine, he did say, now, I should preface that there was a time during the 2 week period that he was there in December 1963 that he was alone in the craft, near the craft, not in the craft, but near the craft when he was guarding it. And he took out a small Minox camera and he actually took a photograph of this, if you can believe it or not. Unfortunately, that photograph was lost in a flood back in '83. So this is another example where the proof that we've all been looking for slipped away. It was 2 steps ahead of us. So here is the craft being loaded up on the tractor trailer. He mentioned that they were putting a tarp over it with chains and it was being moved to the next location. So credit goes to Rudy for that now. Okay, next one is we have another, you could call it world exclusive here.
Wow.
This is not my drawing. This is not the drawing by the gentleman who interviewed the Marine. This is the actual Marine drawing of what he saw back in '63.
Wow.
This is his original sketch,
And that's what
not
you
my
did for
drawing.
the animated. That's awesome.
So if you
That's
look
awesome.
on the upper and left and right corner, you'll see these lights shining down. That tracks with the original notes of what the Marine said. That he stated that the place was, ex, excruciatingly well lit. No shadows anywhere. You can see the elliptical shaped windows. You can see the entryway on the catwalk on the left and right hand side. And
Hmm.
then you can see these pads that are supporting the craft around the outer portion of the catwalk itself. And so this is what actually was supporting the craft. And then he's kind of got this arrow here indicating that it's a little bit off the hangar floor. So again, this is drawing by the actual U.S. Marine. Now, the gentleman who interviewed him is Michael Johnstone, who I spoke to. He interviewed him back in 1986. Here is his somewhat cleaned up drawing here. Again, scaffolding here. The
Hmm.
craft is hanging down just a little bit from the catwalk. And then if you look to the left where these elliptical windows are, you see that eyelid that you were talking about.
Yeah,
That's such
that
a good
lip. Yeah.
terminology.
Thank you.
That, yep, that's present in this drawing here. So that's something that the Marine definitely stressed that. Now, let me take you to another drawing within this 1986 group here. Now, here is where they are shining the laser on the craft, and it bounced off and hit a ceiling tile, and that's that damage that you'll see in that movie. Now, in the movie, they don't have it damaging the ceiling tile; they have it damaging an IBM mainframe computer. But the point is, there was an incident with a laser, and it's in the
Mm-hmm.
movie and it's in this description by the U.S. Marine. So they both track. All right, so let's move on here. Now, we talked about this before. The Marine took a picture with a small German pocket camera. It's called a Minox camera. And in the notes, he stated, quote, "Someday I will tell this story, and by God, people are going to believe me." That was his thought. But the photo was lost in a flood back in 1983. So this is just another one of these examples where we were so close of breaking this, and yet the evidence is always two steps ahead. It always gets snatched out of our hands every single time. Ufology's been on this hamster wheel for 75 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the lights in the sky. We've read all the reports. What we really need now to move this field forward is we need nothing less than the physical hard evidence. That's what we need. That's really what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the boys over third phase wanted to correct me, which I was asking. I was asking for help. Childhood's End, and it was a great movie series written by Arthur C. Clarke. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's sorry. That was the third phase.
Oh, that's
So
great. Good to hear
yeah,
from the brothers. Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, I'm not going to rush this. I'm going to do this very slowly and very methodically here. So
And I'll
I've
be quiet.
taken notes about this, and I'm going to break this down here. So, number one, the event occurred during December 1963, like right after Kennedy was assassinated, within weeks. So it's theoretically possible that Kennedy could have seen this while it was still there. Number two, the Marine stated that he was flown in a military transport with no windows, approximately 2.5 to 3 hours from Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, North Carolina, in an undisclosed direction in an undisclosed location. So here's another question. Could have been an island in the Bahamas. It's possible. Number four, his job was to guard a flying saucer 40 feet across by 15 feet thick for a period of 2 weeks. He was a corporal in the U.S. Marines at the time of the incident and was involved in weapons tech. So that's what he was involved in. Five here. The object had a polished mirror exterior finish and incorporated a 1-inch lip around the windows, which had the appearance of smoked glass. Number six. The craft was constantly well lit, and he didn't need a flash on his Minox camera when he secretly took a photograph. Let's continue on here. Number seven, the craft appeared totally seamless with the exception of a hatch-like outline near the lower portion, which was so fully integrated into the exterior surface that you, quote, "you couldn't get a razor blade in the crack," end quote. That was his statement. Number eight, the UFO had no landing gear, no fins, no exhaust ports, no protrusions of any kind, and no visible means of propulsion. Number nine, during the 2-week period that he guarded the craft, he witnessed a technical crew working on the flying saucer who were attempting to gain access to the inside. And we talked about those before. Number one, diamond tip drill bits failed. Number two, acetylene torch failed. Number three, high-powered laser. All attempts to exceed the tensile strength of the material and breach the outer hull of the craft failed. This is back in 1963. Number 10, the Marine stated that he knew details of several other UFO crash retrieval operations, so not just this one, including one where 3 bodies were pulled out of the craft, stated that he saw documents on the bodies, and another crash. The bodies measured 39 inches tall with no thumbs. Okay, so now I want to get to these code red statements that I've termed here.
Okay.
This is the Marine. Quote, "We have got quite a few craft and bodies now. Isn't that interesting?" End quote. Number two, he overheard 2 civilian scientists talking about aliens in coded jargon. Example, Mary equals aliens. So, he might have been by the water cooler and he overheard these 2 technical scientists talking about Marys or something. And
talking in code, yeah.
Yeah, they were talking in code. That's right. Number 3, saw color-coded security areas with corresponding color-coded badges worn by various personnel. The Marine was told to shoot anyone who violated the system. So these are the examples he gave. Green badge could go here, but not there. Yellow badge could go there, but not here. And if you had a red badge, if you were wearing a red badge, you had total access to the entire facility. And let's continue on here. During the time frame that he guarded the flying saucer, he held a quote interim top secret security clearance. His career in the U.S. Marines involved guarding nuclear weapons material. 6. He took a photograph of the craft with a small German pocket camera when he smuggled into the area. That's what he did. He was responsible for frisking and checking everyone coming into the area for cameras, but nobody frisked him. So that's how he got in. That's how he
Wow.
got in.
Luck of the draw.
This is not me talking. This is the Marine stated that. So you can see people might be skeptical. How could he possibly get in? Well, that's how he got in. 7. Comment from wife, who also saw the photograph. Quote, I doubted the story until I saw the picture. Now I'll never forget it. So not only do we have the Marine who saw the picture, his wife saw the picture, and the gentleman who I spoke to, that person, the gentleman who actually started the process with the 1986 interviewee, he saw it too. So there were at least 3 people who saw this particular photograph. The photograph did exist at one time. There's no doubt about it. Now, number 8, the Marine heard of an underground base in a western state which he couldn't or wouldn't name, where the craft he guarded is now kept. The base is known by its map grid coordinates. What could that be? And features
Yeah.
sliding panels covered with vegetation that reveal helipads that lower into the ground like aircraft carrier elevators. And I'm going to leave it at that right there. Okay, so let's
Wow.
continue here. 11, and again, we're doing this slowly here. I'm not rushing this. A white circle was painted on the floor directly under the craft, which marked a restricted area that Air Force generals were not allowed to pass. The Marine stated that he personally had to stop the Secretary of the Navy from crossing the line. Well, there's a hint right there, right? That's a big hint right there. On the last day he witnessed the craft, it was being loaded onto a flatbed trailer, and military personnel were securing a tarp over it to conceal it during transport to another facility. Apparently, recovered flying saucers are moved from base to base for security reasons and to prevent detection. So I wrote down a real short list of where these would be. So where would you take these saucers, right?
Right.
What did the document show us? Well, all roads lead to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's 1. Number 2, MacDill Air Force Base. Norton Air Force Base, California, Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, and Eglin Air Force Base. All these are repositories for bodies and craft. That is vintage 1963 timeframe and prior to. 13. He was told to report to G2 Base Intelligence Office and sign security oath papers, quote, 10 years in Leavenworth if you talk. So that's what he had to sign. And then number 14 here, at the time of the interview, this is back in 1986, the Marine was in his late 40s and was married with 4 children. So that's the breakdown from the original notes. Okay, so Paul Nitz, United States Secretary of the Navy between November 29th, 1963 and June 30th, 1967. That covers the time frame of when the Marine was here and guarded the craft. So it would have been this gentleman that he stopped and almost shot. So we need to find out somehow, some way, what this gentleman knew. Would be the best way to describe it, because he would be in a position to know something, right? Okay, now, if it was just one guy, we wouldn't have a lot to stand on, but we have this gentleman who plays a role in this too. I want to introduce you to 4-star Major General Melvin F. McNichol. He was Base Commander, Tinker Air Force Base. And just to show you he was a real person, here's his obituary. The Daily Oklahoman, July 11th, 1986. Ex-Tinker Commander Melvin McNichol dies. So just giving you the paperwork and references and documentation so you can verify this on your own. He, the general, was friends with Charlotte Mann, who plays a role in the Cape Girardeau crash retrieval, which maybe we'll talk about later. But they were both friends, and so they had a mutual interest in UFOs. Charlotte Mann turned to the general and said, General, what can you tell me about UFOs? I mean, I have this interest and we've been friends. Can you tell me something? So the general turns to Charlotte and says, Charlotte, if you ever, and I repeat, ever repeat what I'm about to tell you, I'll deny it, and it can ruin my career. And so he told her, number one, he saw a UFO which was located in the West. Number two, he walked around a UFO on a catwalk which was propped up by scaffolding. And number three, bodies were recovered and one was still alive. Isn't that interesting? Because this is
Yes.
virtually identical to what the Marine had mentioned. He talked about being flown from 3 hours from Cherry Point, North Carolina. That would technically put you in the West. He talked
Hmm.
about there being a scaffolding that the whole thing was propped up on, and you could walk around it on a catwalk. This is exactly what Melvin McNichol is talking about. And
Right.
then through water cooler talk, the Marine heard of other crashes and mentions of bodies. This is exactly what the general is describing. So we've got independent confirmation from two people that don't know each other, that are definitely separated by time and space. So,
Right.
what's the bottom line here, Doc? What's the bottom line here? Well, could the public handle the truth regarding UFO disclosure? And instead of me telling you my opinion, let me give you the opinion and statement from a gentleman who's already been to the promised land. He's already seen physical evidence. Here's what he said. Quote, there's a certain amount of people who, if the thing was on display down the street, would still rather stay home and watch football. That's what he said back in 1986. So, in
Yep.
his assessment, there'd be this dichotomy of interest, right? That there'd be one cross section of society that would be so excited and would want to tell everyone, and it'd be a life changing thing. And then the other people, it's nothing to it. It's just another day at the office. They wouldn't care. They don't have a curious bone in their bodies. So, what this in point effect means is, according to the Marine, we're ready to roll. We're ready for it.
Wow. Wow.
And so we,
Wow.
we need to really ask the question here: what did John F. Kennedy know? When did he
Yeah.
know it? And who did he tell? That's my question.
Wow. I just truth is better than fiction.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Truth
And
forces you to dig deep, and it forces you to self-examine your beliefs, your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, your beliefs on utilities, on power generating, what's fair. I mean, it's just a whole host of questions that need to be looked at.
right. And it just never ends because it's
It
just
never
an,
ends.
an, an endless spider web that they
It's an
wove.
endless spider web. So you can kind of see one reason why they've kept this under wraps for all these years is not only the religious implications, but the power utility implications and the lawsuit implications. What if the public found out that their taxpayer payer money was being funded and kind of like funneled
Bad
over to these
projects.
other programs that have no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny. They're beyond the president,
Hmm.
and they don't answer to anyone in our elected government, and they have their own rules, they have their own law type situation, and they're just pouring billions into these things. Is that what Eisenhower talked about when he said that we should be aware of these things? So just questions to look at.
Yeah. And everybody should. Everybody should. Because, especially in today, like we were mentioning earlier about cancel culture, cancel of our history. Look into this, people. I mean, this stuff it'll blow your mind.
Well,
Continue.
and a lot of these cases that we know certainly are hoaxes, right? I mean,
Hmm.
absolutely,
Correct.
there are
Yes.
hoaxes here and there, but when you have a united coalition of people describing the same features, and we
Hmm.
know they don't know each other, you can bank on it. You can bank
Yeah.
on it. You know, the gentleman that I spoke to who interviewed the Marine, he said that during the Camelot era, when Kennedy was president, these subject matter, it was a lot more palatable and it was easier to dislodge back then. But now everything's so locked up. It's so
Yeah.
locked up that it's debatable if we'll ever know. I mean, we're 75 years into ufology this year, and yet we're still barely even scratching the surface.
Yeah.
We don't know
Well,
a whole lot more now than we did then. Now we know some, but we're still way behind. We're still way behind. Now let's continue here.
mhm,
Now, I want to state this is one of those cases within ufology that has absolutely reached legendary status. Now, I have to say, it could be BS, it could be false, it could be a hoax, it could be phony, but on the rare chance that it's not, it still should be talked about because it's legendary within the field of ufology. It's reached this tremendous status, and it pays to just do a quick review. Now, time frame here: Homestead Air Force Base, February 19th, 1973. Key players are comedian Jackie Gleason, who had a
mhm,
huge interest in the paranormal. Of course, he was friends with former President Richard Nixon. And they're at the charity golf outing here, which I've got a photograph here. Jackie Gleason and President Nixon at the charity golf outing in Florida. This is February 19th, 1973. So the first part of this story is absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. This actually did happen.
mhm,
And as the legend goes, somewhere around the ninth hole, the subject of UFOs came up. And so Jackie Gleason turns to the president and says, Mr. Nixon, you know, I've got this tremendous interest in UFOs, Mr. President, and I know you probably know something that the people don't know. What can you tell me? And President Nixon turns to Jackie Gleason and says, Jackie, well, if you'll be available later this evening, I might be able to help you with that. So he continued playing golf. They finished their golf outing, and Jackie really didn't think too much more about it. Almost kind of forgot about it. And then somewhere around 11 o'clock at night, there's this knock on the door, and Jackie Gleason gets up. He opens the door, and it's the president in the doorway. President Nixon is standing in the doorway of Jackie Gleason's home, and he is unescorted. He does not have the Secret Service with him. Apparently, Richard Nixon had a habit of jumping out on the Secret Service. He drove his own car. He was not with any kind of a chauffeur or anything. And so the president turns to Jackie and says, Jackie, you know what we were talking about on the golf course this afternoon? He said, yes. Why don't you come follow me? So Jackie Gleason gets into the passenger side of Richard Nixon's car. The president drives him to Homestead Air Force Base, and then they're met with a guard, and they are basically ushered down a hallway. And when they get to this end of the hallway, there's this large, expansive building with a open area, and in the air, which I'm going to take you inside the building now, what he ends up seeing are approximately 6 vintage Coke freezers with an interesting clear transparent glass window on the top. And so Jackie's thinking, what's this? So he looks inside these vintage Coke freezers, and what does he see? He sees the mangled, burnt remains of what looked like child size beings that were dismembered. They were burnt. Their skin was slightly more dark in color. He felt sad for these beings. It was kind of a horrific sight. Now, across from these 6 vintage Coke freezers were about 4 large blue bins. There's that color again, blue, right?
right.
Inside the blue bins was debris from a crash retrieval that he doesn't know. Okay, so technically it could be Kingman, could be Aztec, technically could be Roswell. We don't know what crash
Yeah.
retrieval this was from. Could be any number of these. All right, so and then here's an enlargement of what these Coke freezers look like. Now, it would have looked very similar to what you see here, but you can see that there'll be a
Wow.
transparent glass window and the body would be in there. So here's Jackie looking inside the Coke freezer now. Now, as the legend goes, when Richard Nixon brought him back later that evening, his wife, Beverly McKittrick at the time, was just panicking. She didn't know where her husband went. So when he got back in later that evening, he plopped himself down on the couch, and he was a completely changed man at that point. He was
Wow.
ashen white. He was scared and horrified to his soul. It shocked him down to his core of his being, and he was a changed man. So the question is, what evidence do we have to support any of this? Or is this all just science fiction fantasy? Well, I started digging, right? So I pulled up the Fort Lauderdale News, February 1st, 1973. Florida's most star-studded sports event, Super Golf with Superstars.
Mhm.
And if you do the enlargement here, 1973 Jackie Gleason Inverary National Airlines Classic, February 19th through the 25th. So that checks
Hmm.
out. That checks out. Now, Timothy Beckley did an interview with Beverly McKittrick, and she described this entire encounter to Timothy Beckley. Next
Wow.
one, we'll go on here. Tampa Tribune, February 20th, 1973. So I want to verify this so that people can check this out.
They did play
President
golf together.
Nixon and host Gleason smiling in the rain. So here you see Jackie Gleason driving the president in his golf cart. So
Wow.
did exist. Miami Herald, February 20th, 1973. President visits Inverary Golf Course near Fort Lauderdale. And so you see the president at the mic, and Jackie Gleason is directly behind him. All right, so now let's do the timeline here. If this is 1973 and it's about 11:30 p.m. or it could have been 12 midnight, very late at night, could Richard Nixon drive Jackie Gleason from Miami to Homestead Air Force Base, and could he get him back within a feasible amount of time so that other people wouldn't notice this? Well,
Right.
look at this map here. It says this is Google Maps. This is recent. Okay, so it's a 28.8-mile distance between the 2 points. It's 38 minutes. Well, this is 2022 map. Back in 1973 at 12 midnight, these roads would have been dead. There'd be no one on it. So you could shave off 30 minutes, at least 8 minutes from this time travel here, this distance between the two. So let's bring that down to 30 minutes. So the president, between the time that the president asked Jackie Gleason into the car to the time they got to the facility, they might have spent 15 minutes at the facility and then 30 minutes back. They could have done the whole thing in just over an hour. So
Hmm.
technically, from this map, it is feasible that they could have pulled it off. Now, let's go to some newspaper clippings here. Dayton Daily News, May 14th, 1993. Jackie Gleason claimed that Richard Nixon took him to Homestead Air Force Base and viewed alien bodies. That's written about in a book here, and it isn't just Jackie Gleason. Let's move to the next one here. The Times Tribune, July 5th, 1987. In her unpublished biography of the funny man entitled The Great One, Beverly Gleason's second spouse described a bizarre trip Jackie took with then president in 1973 to Homestead Air Force Base in Florida to see what she
Hmm.
says were the bodies of 4 dead space aliens recovered by the Air Force.
Wow.
So at least we have some paperwork to back this up here. Okay, the Times Tribune, March 15th, 1985. Larry Bryant, who is the director of Citizens Against UFO Secrecy organization, wrote back that there have been reports that MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and Homestead Air Force Base near Miami have all served as way stations or temporary repositories for crash saucer artifacts.
Wow.
So when you put this all together, the newspaper clippings, the statements by Jackie Gleason, what he told his wife, the actual biography that she wrote describing this, we put that all together. It looks like we've got something historical here, Doc. It looks like we've got a real event.
Wow. Well, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. But we're coming up on the top of the hour.
Okay.
Can we finish this over on Patreon? And you can go
Sure,
as
we
long as
can.
you want there. You can go hours if you want. That's okay.
No problem. We can finish it there.
Okay. And folks, if you want more, join us over on the Patreon page at the bottom of the hour at 8:30. We're gonna take a 30-minute break so everybody can stretch their legs and whatnot, get something to eat, drink, and then join us over on Patreon. It's a subscription. But you get all the good stuff, and we don't have to worry about being censored. So join us over there and hear the nitty gritty. I've known this story. This is a legendary story in ufology, and the fact that I've just only heard it, but you found the documents, you found corroborating evidence. Is that what I'm looking for?
Sure.
Is that right? Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but anyway, I'm hooked. So let's do this. We'll get back to this for anybody that wants to hear more. Got to join Patreon's patreon.com/Doc Skinner, DOCSKINNER. Believe me, it's worth it. So join us there. I want to, for those that can't, that are going to bed or have to go to work or whatever, thank you so much for joining us. You can still see the Patreon part 2 of this at any time you want. Just, head on over there and you can see it if you become a Patreon member. So thanks to all the other Patreon members that have become members. I'm tripping over my words. Yeah, it's time for a break. Just remember, folks, as long as we all lift each other up, we will all rise together. I'm Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah. And if not, we see you. If we don't see you on Patreon in about 30 minutes, we'll see you here tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, Monday through Thursday. All right. So thank you so much, Michael. And for everybody else, we'll see you in 30 minutes. All right. So hang on, Michael. I'll be with you in just a sec. All right. Let me put this over here. How do I get out of here? There we go. And there we go. Okay. So get rid of this too. Hold off on that for a minute. So thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. Real quick, I'll do a real quick shout out to everybody. Got Alien Off World, Alien Bump 72. Zach's here. Terrence, or excuse me, Mr. B, Renee, Terry Reese is here. Frassap, Third Phase Moon, of course, Renee Cruz, Lisa Ann, and who else am I missing? Dave Dennis from Australia. So yes, thank you all. Sorry, but I was just enthralled with what he was saying. So if you want to ask him some questions, head on over to Patreon in 30 minutes. We'll see you guys then. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support. Without it, it just wouldn't be a show. I'll see you guys later. Ciao bella.